So, in the last episode, we discussed how Miami will plan to take down Indiana, the blueprint to take down the mighty Hoosiers, where others have tried and failed. Miami can succeed. But Indiana knows that. Kurt Signetti is a fantastic football mind. He knows that Miami is going to want to shrink the game, control the clock, run behind that offensive line that averages 6'6", 330, and they want to force Indiana out of rhythm to where they're playing from a lot of 3rd and 6 as opposed to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, etc. But championship games don't end with one good plan. They end with the better counter. And I'm going to talk about how Indiana is going to counter Miami's blueprint here in this episode. Let's get into it. To me, Indiana wins this game by preventing Miami from shrinking it. They're going to try and disrupt early down efficiency. They want to speed the game up just enough. I don't think they need to go hurry up like Ole Miss wanted to go against Miami. And they want to force Miami to abandon patience. And one easy way to do that, obviously, if Indiana is able to come right out of the gate and put a touchdown, maybe a field goal on the board, to where suddenly Miami feels as though they have to respond. It's really tough for a team who likes to control the tempo, wants to have long drives. It's really tough to stay in that zone when you're forced to play catch up. It's really tough to do. And the biggest thing, Indiana's not surprised by Miami and this blueprint. They know exactly what Miami wants to do. They want a power run, they want long drives, and they want to play keep away football. And they've been good at doing that, to their credit. That's how they're in the national championship game. But Indiana's already won multiple games where opponents have tried to slow them down. Oregon in the regular season, Iowa, I mentioned in the last episode, and Penn State, all of whom really tried to turn it into more of a grinded out affair. Indiana has lived in uncomfortable games, and they've survived every single time. In their minds, this is just business as usual. They're going to, Kurt Signetti's going to, emphasize that you're not playing against all that tradition at Miami. All they know is what's on the tape. That's what he's, preached before.
You know about the Bama mystique. How do you convince the players that you're playing this team, you're not playing all that tradition?
You probably know more about the mystique than they do. I mean, our guys just know what they see on tape.
So Indiana's a very disciplined team. They're a veteran team. They've got tons of experience across this roster. It's incredible the amount of experience that they have. And defensively, they're not going to be chasing tackles for a loss. They're not going to be over-penetrating, and they're not going to be gambling early. Something that I think Miami, on the flip side, could potentially struggle with. We'll see if their defense stays disciplined or not. But how does Indiana go against Miami's massive offensive line? I think the size difference is pretty intense in this game. Miami's offensive line averages 6'6", 330 pounds. I think one of their massive offensive linemen here, let me just check my notes. Their offensive line, for example, Markel Bell, he's 6'8", 345 pounds. That's pretty intense, and that would get pretty tiring to have to be blocked by that guy over and over again, especially when Miami is running at you. Offensive linemen love when they're doing the hitting, and Indiana's going to have to deal with that front. So how is Indiana going to deal with that when Indiana's defensive line averages around 6'2", 280? They're nearly outweighed by 60 to 70 pounds on average. That's intense, and that's going to wear down over these long extended drives, right? Well, if I'm Indiana, they're going to be having a lot of movement. Big offensive line hate moving targets. To me, that's the thing that Indiana is going to remember is big offensive linemen hate moving targets. So they're going to create slanting fronts. That's when the defensive line is going to move as one in one particular direction. They want to create horizontal run plays. They want to have gap discipline, and they want to force 2nd and 8s as opposed to Miami being able to stay on schedule. And then they want to create a 3rd and 6 plus. Bad downs beat big plays. Miami's size advantage only matters when they're staying on schedule. when if they're looking at a 3rd and 6 plus, Indiana can pin their ears back. Indiana's got some great pass rushers in their own right, some great blitz schemes, and they're very comfortable sitting back in a cover two. We saw that numerous times against Alabama, and ultimately that was one of the plays where Ty Simpson tried to run for that first down, gets knocked out of the game because Indiana's defense is all disciplined with their eyes, watching what he was doing at quarterback. The same thing's going to be said for Carson Beck here. Indiana does not, they're not going to try to outmuscle Miami. That's a losing equation. They know that. So they're going to, again, counter with movement, speed, angles, rotation, one gap penetration, attacking combo blocks before they're able to form. They're going to, again, force horizontal runs, rotate the defensive linemen constantly. Miami likes to have the slower pace. That's going to work to Indiana's advantage if they're able to rotate that deep defensive line and keep those guys fresh. So, fresh defenders and movement ultimately, in my opinion, can neutralize that raw mass that we saw for Miami. And there were games this season where Miami's offensive line struggled a little bit. We're talking about the loss to Louisville at home this season, 24-21. They were not able to control the line of scrimmage like they should have. That's one of the reasons they lost. They lost to SMU in similar fashion. So that's not to say that Miami's offensive line is bad or, it's a mediocre unit. Not the case at all. I'm just saying that's one thing that we can take from the tape for Miami. Speeding up the game. Ole Miss tried this last game, and ultimately Miami came out and dominated, in my opinion. Miami shot themselves in the foot is the only thing. They were undisciplined. They got in a lot of penalty trouble, and as a result, Ole Miss was able to hang out and keep that game really close. When in reality, Miami dominated the time of possession. They had consistent long drives. They had a lot of success in the run game. And defensively, they, early on were making Ole Miss uncomfortable, but the penalties just killed them and extended those drives. So Indiana is going to want to do what Ole Miss was trying to do: increase the tempo, snap quickly after first downs, throw on early downs, avoid huddles when possible. They'll still probably huddle up, would be my guess here and there, but in order to expedite the offense and keep pushing, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a little no huddle mixed in. That's going to create more possessions, less clock for Miami. Miami's offensive line has to play more snaps. The defensive line has to play more snaps. If they have some no huddle situations, that same defensive line has to stay on the field. They can't rotate fresh pass rushers. It keeps those, dogs in Miami's defensive line with names like Reuben Bain Jr., Akeem Mesidor, Ahmad Moten Sr., who's going to be healthy for game time, by the way. So Miami, they've got a great defensive line in their own right. But if you're able to speed this up to where they're not able to get fresh subs on the field, they probably get worn down over time, which can help the run game. And again, I talked about it last episode. In games where Indiana has not been able to run the ball over 4 yards or at least 4 yards a carry, that's when they've been knocked out of rhythm. So if you're able to get the defensive front of Miami a little bit tired, a little bit beaten up, a little bit out of rhythm, and get some big runs in there, suddenly the flow for Indiana just really is able to kick into another gear, takes more pressure off of Mendoza. They're able to mix in their RPOs more effectively. It's just a chain reaction, which is what we saw against Oregon, which is what we saw against Alabama, which is what we saw in every game where Indiana had a 25-plus point win. So that is key for Indiana. I think they want to speed this up. They don't need a shootout per se. I don't think Indiana wants to turn this into a basketball game. They just need a little bit more volume than Miami is comfortable with being in. So if Miami stays disciplined defensively, Indiana has to throw behind linebackers, quick slants, bubble screens, and tight end pop routes. So RPOs, Fernando Mendoza is so good at that. If the safeties creep handed off, the ultimate goal is to manufacture that efficiency that we've all become so accustomed to seeing out of Indiana this season, avoid falling under that 4 yards per carry, and then keeping Miami guessing. If Miami can't just key in on the run game and they have to look for a bubble screen, they have to look out for a tight end popping out, they have to look out for slants over the linebackers. It's just tough to stay disciplined when you have to worry about all those things on defense. And this Miami defense has shown that they can be undisciplined and get into some penalty trouble. Again, shot themselves in the foot a lot against Ole Miss, even though they ended up winning. They got lucky in a sense. If Indiana wants to pressure Miami, not Mendoza. So they want to blitz Carson back on the flip side. We want to flip the pressure. Indiana's defense be the one pushing the envelope a little bit here. Get Miami's offense off the field. Don't let them have these long extended drives. And then they have to play catch up. Not at all what Miami wants to do. They want to speed up Miami's decision making so they're not just having these 7-minute long drives, and they want to force mistakes. Miami's plan depends on patience. Mario Cristobal wants to turn this into a shortened game, not as many drives between the two teams. Playing from behind destroys keep away, as I mentioned. Ultimately, keep away only works when you're calm. And it's tough to do that if you're down by a couple of scores from Miami's point of view. Then it becomes, oh man, this is Indiana's game. So Indiana has proven they don't blink late. They execute under pressure. They've had numerous games where, like that Penn State win with that incredible catch in the back of the end zone, Mendoza was getting hit mid-thrown, and he was sacked numerous times in that game. He was sacked numerous times against Oregon. He was under pressure against Iowa. Iowa was a tough, grinded-out game, and ultimately they were able to grind out a win in the final minutes of those 3 games. But they've been in these multiple one-score games, even if Miami is able to bring them down to that level. And Fernando Mendoza, he delivered game-winning drives, comfortable in fourth quarter chaos, and has already answered all those tests. Now, Miami is better than those 3 teams, I think, here. Oregon had the potential to be on Miami's level. No disrespect to you Duck fans, but you guys were beat up all season. And this last game was a culmination of that. So, no disrespect to Oregon, but they've already answered every test. Miami is probably defensively going to be one of their tougher tests. Indiana does not fear the fourth quarter. They expect it, and Coach Cignetti is going to have them ready. So, Miami's blueprint is real. It is achievable, but Indiana's counter is experience, the ability to stay calm, a coach like Coach Cignetti, and numerous veteran players that are going to not flinch at a scenario like this. Championship games aren't about having a plan. They are about executing it while someone else is trying to take away your plan. And I think Indiana has all the ability to do it. Miami can win this game, but Indiana knows exactly how to stop them. Again, I can't wait to watch this game with you guys. Let's see how this plays out. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Is this Indiana's game to win? Is this Miami's? Take your pick. We'll see you next time.